Welcome to Fascist Economics 101.
Welcome, class, to Fascist Economics 101. Come on in, pull up a chair, make yourselves comfortable. Don't worry, this is a pro-democracy space. You can call me Steve. FYI, this is just the introductory episode where I introduce myself, do some housekeeping, trigger warnings, all that jazz. If you want to just dive into what fascism and fascist economics are and how they work, head on to the next episode on the framework of fascist economics. If you're here, you've probably heard that the US is sliding towards fascism. You've probably read or watched descriptions of how right-wing politics and ideology is mirroring what happened in Nazi Germany. Well, I'm here to ring an alarm bell. Politics and ideology aside, we're facing a new battlefield, a threat that this country has never faced before. The US is transitioning right now away from a capitalist economic system to a fascist economic system. The battlefield is economics. You've probably already noticed the weirder aspects of this. The Trump tariffs, the exaggerated punishment of Harvard University, the obsession with getting rid of corporate DEI departments. The discussion around these has either dismissed them as crazy or, even worse, has categorized these as capitalism run amok, which is absolutely not the case because this isn't capitalist economic policy. It's fascist economic policy. That's what all of this weird stuff has in common. This transition to a fascist economy is going to have massive consequences for American society. This will affect everyone from tech CEOs to working class families. In this podcast, I'm going to provide a framework so that people can understand what fascist economics looks like, how it works, and how to oppose it. I understand that some of you might be skeptical, but fascism is no longer a historical relic. Right now, fascism is sculpting America's political, ideological, and economic landscape, and we need to take it seriously. I want to be clear. Fascism is just as much a system of politics, ideology, and economics as capitalism, socialism, and communism are. It's tempting to write fascists off as being crazy, but crazy is an illusion that your mind makes when you cannot interpret motive. Outside of a diagnosable mental illness, once you understand why a crazy person does what they do, the crazy disappears. Same with fascism. So, this is something that deserves our attention. For us to oppose fascism, we need to understand what it is, how it works, and what policies and actions strengthen and weaken it. Additionally, fascism needs to be treated as a new system that we in America haven't seen before. If you want to oppose fascism, you need to take different actions than you would to oppose, for example, the worst impulses of capitalism. The usual socialist playbook isn't enough here. You could implement a huge swath of socialist economic policies. You could turn the country into a workers' paradise without ever challenging a ruling fascist government. And if you try to implement socialism without curbing the things that actually fuel fascist economics, you'll sleepwalk into a fascist society with all its trappings of racism, sexism, corrupt officials, murdered journalists, and every other evil of fascist governance. With all that out of the way, let me share a little bit about me. At the current rate, it eventually won't be safe for Americans to publish anything that goes against fascism, and some of my best colleagues in this field have already left the country. So, I'm anonymous. I'll go by the name Steve for the purpose of this podcast. In terms of my qualifications, I have an undergraduate degree from Harvard University, an MBA, and most importantly, I have the kind of probable autism that gives me a special interest, namely in the political science of authoritarian governments. I'm not an academic, I'm just someone with very specific interests who reads a lot of academic literature. In terms of my perspective, I have biases and political opinions just like anyone else. Harvard is a stronghold of neoliberal economic analysis, and that is a prominent part of my perspective. But in the interest of just communicating the information that needs to be communicated, I'm going to present everything as neutrally as I can. That means that what I say about capitalism, communism, fascism, socialism, it will just be focused on the descriptions of what they are and how they work. We don't have time to waste on performative outrage. As I said, I'm a massive nerd for authoritarian governments. In what I have to say about fascist economics, I'm going to be drawing from the history of fascist governments, particularly actions that they have taken and explanations their leaders have given for their economic actions. Additionally, I'll be drawing from modern scholarship that explains the actions of both historical fascist governments and more modern authoritarian governments. As for where I stand in political science, I look at authoritarian governments from the standpoint of the incentives facing political leadership. The formal political science name for this is selectorate theory. It's little known and highly controversial, but it is the single most effective tool we have for understanding authoritarian governments. Just in general, for the kinds of topics I'm going to cover in this podcast, I need to give a huge disclaimer. As a trigger warning, my explanation of fascism and pretty much anything I talk about here will involve discussion of Nazi Germany. This is a heavy topic. I have family who died in the Holocaust. I get it. I don't mean to upset anyone, but Nazi Germany is one of the only examples we have of a modern Western country that turned to fascism. We have to talk about it. I'm not here to rehash what we already know about the evils of the Nazi government. I'm generally going to stick to the economics. Stepping back, I don't mean for this to be all doom and gloom. Right now, as fascism rises in America, I know that anyone listening could be among the growing categories of people who are being targeted by the government. I don't mean for this to just add on to people's fears and frustrations. Here's how I think of it. In the aftermath of 9/11, TV personality Mr. Rogers was asked to return to TV to speak to America's children. He was asked to help explain what parents could not. In his address, Mr. Rogers said that whenever there is any catastrophe, any disaster of a scale that is too large to process, to look for the helpers. That no matter how dreadful what's happening on the news might be, that there are always people who are trying to help, however they can. And that's where our support needs to be right now, with those who are trying to help. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it. Please consider sharing this podcast with those around you, and please share the ideas here with the people around you. The more people who can think of fascism in economic terms, the more ways we can find to oppose the economic side of fascist power.